I don't know what to tell you. This is literally the way
No,
that you
it's
do the
fine.
study.
Go back to
and
calculating rent, dude, because clearly you're not very good at reading medical journals.
It's proof to me that your way is better when every doctor does it my way.
Can I just finish?
Hey, can you shut the f up for a second,
Christ.
Vivian? Christ, just let him talk. Yeah. So here's the thing I don't like is that you're saying like, oh, you don't have studies. You're the one saying something that no doctor does. That's when you can know, oh, he's just a f***ing moron.
Because nobody claims that placebos cure cancer, man.
Okay.
Listen, Dan's here. Dan said he's going to sort all this out. So,
all right. So you guys, I'm gonna take this back a little bit. You guys we're getting a little bit off track here. Okay, I know some. We're talking a little bit about this all started with Dr. K, right? And as we get into things like placebo and stuff, we get a little farther away from the goal. And I think the best question is, imagine this: if we presented to Dr. K the question, what's the name of the shit he does again? It's like fucking
Ayurveda.
Yeah. How is that better or worse in treatment compared to homeopathy? I want you guys to imagine. What do you think he would say?
well, we've actually already got an answer to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to paraphrase a bit, but I'll do my best job to represent what he said and maybe send you the clip later. So basically what he said was, someone asked, what do you think of homeopathy? He said, the medical science on homeopathy is mixed. Hint, it's not. That's not true. The second thing that he said is the reason I promote Ayurveda, or whatever he's called, over homeopathy is because there's a scientific backing to it. Again,
okay, so
not true.
So when he says something like that, that's when you can know, oh, he's just a fucking moron. Honestly, like the thing is, us as mostly of the paler complexion, I guess I could say, we feel very nervous criticizing things that aren't from our culture. But sometimes you just have to stand up and be like, no, this is just bullshit.
I mean,
and that's one of those things.
The Indian Medical Association doesn't feel bad criticizing it either. They refer to them as quacks, right? So, like, I think it's perfectly reasonable to criticize this, and I think it's even more reasonable to say that like it can cause harm, because it's not only that you're like directing some. If you want to give somebody sugar pills as a placebo, right? I'm fine with that.
No.
Right?
Hold on,
because that doesn't have anything attached to it. This has an ideology attached to it.
You got to take a step back
to a more dangerous path.
Vivian, when it comes to placebo, you guys shouldn't be saying, hey, it's okay to give people a placebo. It can't do any harm. That's not okay. Placebos should be reserved for clinical environments when it's shown that it can have an effective working, and in the absence of a proven, dare I say, Western drug that can act in its place. Never should we be in a situation where we substitute actual medicine for placebo. Meaning,
absolutely not. Yeah.
So this is something
supplementary.
It should also be nothing that you can do on your own. Okay. I think placebos should be prescribed. Okay. Meaning that if you want to go and take some sugar pills, the only way you're going to do it is literally if your doctor is going to go and prescribe you ivermectin. Some fucking unmade thing.
I'm a little confused.
I think that's silly because people use placebos in their daily life on a regular fucking basis. I don't think you can stop the use of placebo. I drink a lot of chamomile because I say that it calms my nerves. The science seems to say that it could possibly calm people's nerves in really high doses. I can't be bothered looking into the science in a significant way because, like, I get the anxiolytic effects of chamomile from the placebo regardless.
Okay. Hold on real quick, Dan. What if a patient goes to their doctor and says, I've heard good things about chiropractic, or I don't know, let's do something with a little less division. I've heard good things about fucking acupuncture. What do you think about that, doc? Do you think it's like the doctor should just always say, no, not on my watch, motherfucker?
No, so I think the doctor has to say, is this patient doing something that can be cured or solved with actual medicine versus something else? So like things like acupuncture or everything else, like, is there harm in it? No, not really. There isn't harm. I mean, with some of the stuff, like the one Dr. K is doing, sometimes it has lead and whatnot. But
let me say this sometime real quick. I get the sense that you've kind of just walked into this. Yeah. So my position is that like a doctor can not necessarily prescribe. We may get hung up on the definition of prescribe, what constitutes prescribing or what doesn't or something like that. But the idea of suggesting or not necessarily disapproving of a placebo or alternative treatment after like exhausting all other medical treatments, like medically approved treatments, and like after a long period with a patient or something like that. Like that's already the context, the stage that we've set.
So one thing that I heard that Dr. K said, which I don't want to say I don't think it's not true, I'm just going to say it seems wrong to me, and also seems like it would probably be a minor case, is that in general, a placebo, you're supposed to believe that it's something not a placebo. Meaning that if you go to the doctor and say, hey, Dan, yeah, we're doing trials for a cancer treatment, and half of you guys are going to get the real cancer drug and half of you guys are going to get the placebo, it doesn't do a lot of good if you tell me I'm getting a placebo. So you, for instance, when Vivian says, oh, hey, I drink this, but I know it doesn't do it.
So this isn't actually true.
Okay,
well, it is.
I believe it is to be true. So there might be edge cases, but
it's not edge cases. It's not edge cases.
Okay, then why in every clinical study do that say, hey, dude, you're getting the placebo?
Dude, the knowing that you have a placebo doesn't actually produce like a measurably different effect.
So why don't they tell them?
I'm just saying this is what the literature says on placebo.
I don't think it does say that.
No,
okay, well, if you don't think it does, do you know that it doesn't?
Well, okay, now the answer to this is
cool. So
the answer to this seems really simple.
I know that in practice
you
they
wouldn't
do it my way.
The reason you wouldn't tell a patient that they're taking a placebo is because you want to maximize the ability for which you can control the testing of another drug. But that doesn't necessarily mean that telling them that a thing is a placebo completely will negate the placebo effect or something like that.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, placebos do work even if you know that they are placebos.
Can I just say I'm getting super triggered by us repeating the words placebos work over and over again. Okay, there is very mixed science on the effectiveness of placebos, and it seems like it's like a meme in like the online community. Some because it's an interesting like psychological thing that people have studied like a little bit, right? Like they have approved uses like in as Dan described, like in clinical settings or whatever, where and like those are very real use cases. But just using placebos to treat people, right? That is not like a super hard, like fast truth that we have available, right? And I have familiarity because again I've been through this and like the Danish medical science, right? And like the Danish medical studies on this are like from like relatively recently, from like 2004, I think there was like a huge study like in the Danish, and like what they found was that like they had like overall negligible effects at best, and the only effects that could be described were very, very like short term and only.
Well, it depends on the condition that you're. It depends on the condition that you're treating. Like, obviously, it's a placebo is not going to have a particularly great effect on like fucking cancer or tuberculosis or whatever. But like it can have an effect on sort of general patient comfort.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. Hold on one second.
No, hold on.
Please, let me clarify something real quick. Okay, I want to come back to this point. When you said that telling someone they're taking a placebo makes no difference, I don't believe that.
I didn't say it makes no difference.
I would say it makes a massive difference, and there's a reason as to why they wouldn't do it. Because if you say, "Hey, Dan, this guy's getting good medicine, and you're getting sugar," do you think that's going to have the same effect? Saying the word placebo. Okay, so that's
an important
part of this.
And then I've got to drop off. I just want to quickly.
That's not what I said.
That's okay. I do think it's interesting. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. It's fine. You can go on.
Oh, I didn't. I mean, it's just not what I said, right? I didn't want to be misrepresented. What I was trying to say is that being made aware that what you've been taking is a placebo, right? Doesn't seem to actually affect how effective that placebo is in any measurable fashion, right?
Wait, going back in time? No shit, it's not a fucking time traveler.
What do you mean going back in time? No, if the person then continues to take the placebo, right, making them aware that it's a placebo doesn't seem to affect the effectiveness of the placebo.
I'd have to see
there's other psychological shit going on there than just simply I believe this works and therefore it works.
So here's the thing I don't like is that you're saying like, oh, you don't have studies. You're the one saying something that no doctor does. Every fucking trial.
No doctor.
Let me finish speaking.
Whatever. Fuck up, Dan.
Every trial doesn't tell you you're on a placebo. So prove to me that your way is better when every doctor does it my way.
Can I just add something?
This is a stupid fucking argument.
Yeah, it is a little bit hard when you have no evidence.
Every trial is... Okay, Dan, I will go and Google the fucking evidence right now and I'll bring it to you, okay? But you starting off with, you have no fucking evidence for this claim and actually every doctor thinks you're wrong. You don't fucking have any evidence for that either.
I have evidence that every double blind, they don't tell the patient that they're taking a placebo or not. Dan.
Of course they fucking don't, because it might affect the fucking study, right? Jesus fucking Christ!
I think one thing that's useful to consider here is when we. Sorry,
but these are two separate things from like a body of
mind.
literature on like the effectiveness of placebos, isn't it, Dan? Fucking hell!
I don't know what to tell you. This is literally the way
no,
that
it's
you do
fine.
the study.
Go back to calculating rent, dude, because clearly you're not very good at fucking reading medical journals.
It's been long since I've been on a panel.
Getting out with a personal insult here when we're called out to be wrong, but okay.
I mean, you literally started with the fucking aggression, Dan. Okay, I
never said anything personal about you.
All right.
I never said anything personal about you. What's going on?
Can we consider this, because I think it's interesting? Like, we're talking about the effectiveness of placebo. But actually, when we're talking about effectiveness, what does that necessarily mean? Because reports and studies can look at effectiveness in a number of different ways. So we could be saying like placebo is found to be effective insofar as patients who have been subject to it have said that they feel better after they've been, they've had that. That could be, it's very subjective kind of effectiveness, but that's what patients are reporting. It could be something more objective in terms of like a measurable outcome, like
a lesion goes away,
right,
an infection goes away or something, right?
Yeah, I actually really had to go now. I just wanted to add that before I left, so thank you.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty
sure they haven't done.
I know it's counterintuitive, which obviously makes you like resistant to the claim, because you're like, why would it still work if people know that it's a placebo, right? But we can, but there are numerous fucking articles on this, right? Yeah. Probably the most famous one is the one from the British Medical Journal. That was the one that I was remembering. 2008 study in the British Medical Journal suggests that placebos still work even when people know they're receiving pills with no active ingredients.
Still,
right?
does
Viv,
Viv,
I need to ask. Was this a test between people taking a placebo and not knowing, and taking a placebo and knowing, or was it a test of people having no pill and people getting a pill and knowing?
Do you want me to just post the whole study?
That would be good, because I've looked at some of the.
You could go and look at the methodology if you like, rather than like quizzing me on it. All I'm saying is that like Dan is in fact incorrect. And doctors
my point was pretty
in general recognize.
Well, hey, I got good news here. The water that you have in your house
will be effective.
The water you have in your house is actually going to cure your cancer, and you're never going to get sick. So that might be a placebo, but hey, there you go. You're good to go now. That I've told you.
But a placebo doesn't actually cure your fucking cancer, Dan. So yes, whilst you saying we've added some kind of ingredient to your water that will help your cancer, right, would produce the same effect, same measurable effect as a placebo, possibly, we'd have to do studies on it, but the research suggests it would not cure your fucking cancer, because nobody claims that placebos cure cancer, Dan.
Oh, I mean, Dr. Cake claimed that it cured diabetes, so I mean, we're not too far off.
But he doesn't think it's a placebo. He thinks that the overall health of the body is controlled by the fucking...
Vivian, I just looked this up, okay? The claim that you are making is not the claim that is supported with the evidence, right? So what you're saying is...
Go on. What was the claim that I was making? And what's the claim that the evidence shows?
Sure. So the claim that you're making is that placebos are still effective even if you know that they are placebos, right?
Yes, that's the claim that I'm making.
That is not...
They can be.
They can be, right? And can does a lot of work here, right? So what Dan is saying... So what Dan... Can I just finish?
Hey, can you shut the fuck up for a second, Vivian? Christ, just let him talk.
Holy fuck. Okay, so what is happening, right? What Dan is saying is that placebos are just as effective when you know or when you don't know it's a placebo, right? That is wrong, right? I haven't
we
found
cleared
any
this up
evidence.
at the very beginning. Jesus Christ!
No, we didn't. No, because she keeps repeating.
Keeps repeating what?
The reason why.
What do I keep repeating, Dario?
The reason why Dr.
No, tell me what my fucking argument is. So
Can you just let me speak one sentence, Vivian? Jesus Christ!
Well, because you're not arguing against me, Dario. You're just talking shit. So what do you think my argument is, and then make the point against it?
Vivian, if you let me speak for 20 seconds, I'll tell you. Okay, just 20 seconds.
Dario,
just
I'm going to give you a fucking an OP tactic, Dario. You're going to love me forever. If you want, just keep talking and take your headphones off. Go ahead.
Okay. That's actually a good idea.
Sounds like a placebo.
I mean,
I should just mute Vivian, honestly.
Right, let's let. Okay, listen. Look. This is turning into a shit show.
Just fucking say it.
I've muted Vivian now.
This is so childish. Holy fucking shit, dude.
So the issue with what Vivian was saying was that she keeps repeating placebos are effective even though you don't know that you're getting the placebo, right? But what the reason why I take issue with this, and the reason why Dan keeps bringing up how doctors do it, is because there's a reason why in clinical settings you don't tell people that you're getting a placebo, is because it is not the same effect that you're getting, right? So if you look at the studies, there was a big study from Harvard which says
they've said
that
this 10
the
times
reason
already,
why
and
that you
I'm
can
just
have
bored of
some
hearing
positive
it.
effect from placebos.
You've already made this point. You've already made this point.
We literally started with
fucking
this.
times, like 10
you've already
fucking
made this point,
times.
and you're still
if you're
still
upset
wrong.
with me, upset with me fucking interrupting,
give me the
it's
evidence
because
that
you're
says I'm wrong.
boring.
Okay, I will do. Since Viv's voice isn't the one for your ears, I'll try it instead. The reason that they do it isn't to affect the efficacy of the placebo. The reason that they don't tell people is because it's a double-blind experiment. It's got nothing to do with the effectiveness of the placebo.
Can you show me a study that says that placebo is just as effective if you get it, or like if you know it's a placebo?
Yeah, we don't know if it's just as effective.
I don't have a study for that, but
it is still effective.
So what the fuck are you talking about?
It is still effective, and the difference isn't measurable.
I hate to placebo people, but placebos are actually being prescribed by doctors according to a lot of surveys they've done.
Of course they
even
are,
in the UK. You know, so it's not. I know that people were saying earlier that this doesn't happen. You know, we're clamping down on it. It does kind of happen, and doctors
placebos are prescribed all the fucking time.
That was me, but to a limited degree. But again, the reason that they don't tell people is to have a double-blind experiment, and you could fall back to saying, well, it's only double-blind
setting,
if it's just as effective. But that isn't the same thing. So
but doctors won't generally tell people that they're giving them a placebo when they're prescribing it. You're talking about it in a double-blind clinical research setting when you're doing a study with control and all that. But we're talking about it when a doctor does it into his patient.
Okay, so I know this is banned in Denmark, but Supreme linked the American Health Association earlier, which says that you are not allowed to give somebody a placebo medicine without informing them first. Like Supreme linked that earlier, and I know this is not allowed in Denmark. So what are you talking about?
Okay, so why would they even suggest it if it wasn't effective? It's whatever. I don't know why we're down the fucking rabbit hole on this.
Yeah, I don't know why we're
this is so fucking. This is so fucking dumb. We've shown that we've produced enough evidence that placebos are effective, even if you know.
And I'm telling you, that is not allowed. Like in Denmark and to my knowledge in the US as well. So I don't know where you're from.
Isn't there a contradiction?
I'm from the UK, and according to surveys, that's what they're doing.
Okay, cool. So if they tell the patients that they are placebos and yet they still prescribe them, then they must see some kind of medical use in doing so. So therefore, it seems like those doctors seem to think that even though the patients know that the placebos are placebos, that they will still be somehow effective for them. Whatever. We're in the fucking weeds here, right? I thought we were talking about fucking Dr. K or whatever, but we just keep getting drawn into shit because people say dumb shit that needs correcting and then double down on it for like half an hour.
Yeah, I don't think anyone disagrees with, I think everyone here would be quite happy with placebos being prescribed in some limited circumstances. It was all down to what Supreme was saying about presentation.
I disagree with that. I don't think they should be prescribed under any circumstance. And that is the
way. Well, then you're a fucking idiot. Why the fuck would you deny people a treatment that literally works to improve their health and well-being?
Because I don't think doctors should prescribe things to patients and give them things that they don't have any evidence is gonna like.
Except they do have evidence it works. There is evidence that placebos work. This is how we get down this fucking hole. Placebos do improve the health and well-being of the patient.
No, Vivian,
What
that's
do you
not
mean
true.
no? Why are you knowing?
So if you let me finish, I'll explain to you, right? So if you can give me evidence that a placebo has a real effect that cannot be achieved elsewhere, then I would agree with you, right? But I don't think that's the case, right? What I've seen from placebos is that they can, like, the act of taking a pill every day and thinking about your pain might help alleviate some of your pain, right? That's what we're saying. Right, and I don't think a placebo is a good way to do that. I think you just need therapy. You just need tools to deal with pain in your life, right? You just need the doctor needs to refer you to a therapist or something, right? That's a way better solution, directly addressing.
Well, hey, when we fully understand how placebos work psychologically, when we fully understand that, maybe we'll be able to develop. Maybe we'll, okay. Well,
there's
then
studies about a lot of
maybe
things.
there are studies on a lot of things, but as far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong, Dario, maybe you have the evidence to discount this, but as far as I know, we haven't mapped out all the fucking psychological shit that goes on in the human brain with regards to placebos, and we have not developed courses of psychotherapy, right, which mimic placebo effects in order to give people the same effect as a placebo, right? So we do have things like pain management, right, which we can do in psychotherapy. But hey, psychotherapy with pain management might work even better if you give people some incense and say that, you know, good aromas can make people feel calmer and
yes,
better.
But the issue is that it leads to magical thinking, right? It leads to you thinking
but
that
it doesn't matter.
It
doesn't
matter.
It doesn't
have
to. No, it doesn't.
Okay,
Doctors aren't science teachers. It only matters to the extent that it's able to treat the patient's symptoms.
So this is where I agree with Dario, right, and disagree with Supreme. And this is the point I was trying to make earlier, right? Is like, I think it's okay to give people fucking sugar pills, but when you start giving them stuff like yoga, or fucking doing the Ayurvedic medicine, right? And you start teaching them a holistic understanding of the human body, illness, and spirit, right? Then what you're doing is you're creating a mind state that allows for them to make future terrible fucking decisions about their health and to reject conventional medicine in favor of these more magical things, right? And it puts them in danger, and it has the potential for further kind of like radicalization into extreme religious beliefs, wherein they could find themselves like separated from their family, etc., right? Going to join some weird fucking yoga cult. So like, you as a doctor, as a physician, are responsible for the well-being of your patient, and all medicine that we prescribe is based upon what is the outcome for the patient in terms of well-being. That's why you do like 1 year, 5 year, 10-year follow-ups in most clinical medical trials, right? And if you're doing a 1 year follow-up and the patient feels a little bit better, but a 10-year follow-up and the patient is now refusing all fucking forms of Western medicine and will only try and treat their cancer with tantras, like, you've now fucked up as a physician, right?
Well, I mean, nobody can see the future. Nobody can see 10 years ahead. Like, I don't think it's fair. Like, how the fuck can you possibly task someone with how will this affect the patient in 10 years if you've tried everything else or something like that?
Well,
like,
hey, I'd love to see studies on what happens when you prescribe fucking yoga as sorry, not yoga, when you prescribe Ayurvedic practices or teach people an Ayurvedic understanding of how the body works as a fucking doctor. I think that's just, it's just bad though. Like, surely it's going to lead to a shit understanding of the human body. You can understand that, right?
Yeah, so there's actually studies on, well, not specifically this, but I did a lot of reading about this when I made like the inflammatory, like, I don't think any people should hold like spiritual beliefs necessarily, right? And the issue is that there are a lot of studies which actually show that once you teach people to hold like some, like, well, you can call it spiritual or like non-scientific beliefs, right? Generally, these things lead you to be more open to those kinds of things in the future in other aspects of life, right? And I mean, it's also common sense if you just think about it, right? But there are actually studies which show this, which is why I don't think this should be like the job of a doctor to prescribe you things like that, even if they have some friends or other patients which might have had good positive results from like becoming religious or whatever.
I think an important part of a doctor's job is to reassure and inform the patient on the effectiveness of scientifically supported medicine and prescribing them some kind of spiritual practice as a especially spiritual practices like Ayurveda, like yoga, like Reiki or whatever, that are like directly in opposition to scientifically supported, like, quote unquote Western medicine. Then you're undermining that purpose of basically educating them in Western medicine and making them feel comfortable in Western medicine.
Can I just say, look, I'm really bored of this conversation about.
Snapped my fingers and said, all doctors are atheists. Therefore, I suggest that everyone should become an atheist or something like that. The problem is that some people, when they lose their religion, they don't have anything like better to turn to, or they don't get like introduced to, rational thinking, and so they end up turning to some other bullshit or whatever. So like, so I'm like setting the most ideal circumstance to answer the question that I think you really mean to ask me, which is, do I think that religion is like, do I think that there's benefit to religion? Yeah, I actually do. I think there's like being religious and having like a religious community and stuff does offer some benefit to people. But would I prefer everybody, like we could do I think religion has any basis in reality? No, I don't think it does.
At the very least, at the very least, I think we can agree that doctors shouldn't be injecting their religion to any of their diagnosis and their treatment, because people go to them to see a medical professional and they go for that. And that's why, if we bring it back to Dr. K, when people go to him for their life coaching or therapy or whatever the fuck it is, and they get this spiritual injection of Ayurveda, which he doesn't put front and center. He just, subtly
sneaks that shit in.
Brings the conversation to every now and then, which is even more sort of pernicious in a way. So
if he was just straight up front and was just like, "Hey, look, I'm an Ayurvedic guru," right? Then I'd be like, "Okay, fine, we can at least deal with this bullshit on its face." But like the fact that
make as much money.
The fact that
I would respect a life coach on Twitch who went, okay, I was a doctor, a psychiatrist for many years, but I'm rejecting all that because I think that this is a more, giving up not practicing my license anymore, and instead focusing on giving people.
I think it'd still be. I think
you wouldn't be able to respect.
I think it's perfectly.
Never hear of him.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to respect it either. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say that there are certain religious beliefs that are just harmful, that people shouldn't fucking hold, right? Like, we don't excuse Christian homophobia simply because it's Christian, right? And we shouldn't excuse things like these alternative medicine type things simply because they come from some kind of religious space, because they're encouraging people to engage in practices that don't help them and eschew practices that do. So, like,
Supreme answered that question. Could you answer it simply? Would you if you had to choose all doctors are atheists or all doctors are Christians, which would you choose?
Okay, here's the question.
I'm going to ask you. It. He said.
Okay, here's the question.
Is this about Dr. K? Is this about Dr. K? If it's not about, if anyone says anything more about, isn't about Dr. K, we're going to fucking end this shit. I'm going to start kicking people out because we've talked about placebo. Now we're talking about whether doctor should be atheist. I don't fucking care about any of that. Okay.
Chud, I have something to say. Chud. Okay, listen. I know you've tried everything. I know you've tried everything you absolutely could with your internet, right? But you know what you could try? I've heard it works maybe. Take some peanut butter, just put it on your internet cables. Maybe that's going to give you a better...
Okay. Anyway, listen, I just had an open mic on my game and didn't realise my teammates got a bunch of bullshit in their ear. Right. Can we put, look, please, I don't care about placebos or anything like that, okay? Does anyone disagree that Dr. K has been promoting pseudoscience in his content?
He has. I think, though, there is a distinction that needs to be brought up, okay? So there's a difference, right, between a counselor and a psychotherapist, right? Now, I'm reading an article here. This is from a Canadian psychotherapist. And basically the gist of what I'm getting at from it is that once you put the counselor hat on versus the psychotherapist hat, suddenly you're not held to the same licensing and education and clinical requirements that a psychotherapist has. And you can have those requirements met, but then change over to essentially the counselor hat. And suddenly you can be a biblical counselor, a spiritual counselor. And that's essentially what Dr.
Do we think that's good, though? That seems really not good.
So would you get rid of all biblical counseling, spiritual counseling that exists?
I mean,
how do you
broadly? Which I literally just said. I think that there are religious beliefs that are incredibly harmful, and we probably shouldn't allow them.
I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you on this. Okay, that's like a really bad argument. So, as a Christian, if I am going to go to counseling, I need someone to some degree understand the elements of my faith. That's really important to me if I was to ever go for counseling. So your argument, okay, that like we shouldn't have this type of like spiritual counseling or whatever.
No.
It would harm. I think it would harm more people than it would help.
I don't know what you think.
He's trying to make a distinction between whether he's a psychotherapist or
it's fine to.
He's a psychiatrist. Just to be clear,
I don't. What I want to get to here is like I appreciate there's some distinction, but then that raises the question: what is it that Dr. K is actually doing? He's allegedly like a psychiatrist, and on the same token, someone just gifted a second sub to Healthy Gamer. Thank you very much for that. But on the other hand, he is blurring the lines between what is therapy, what is a conversation, what is counselling. None of it really seems clear to me, and I just wonder then, can we bring it back to Dr. K with that analysis?
I think the answer is you could probably loop on this all day. Either you're gonna fall into the camp of drawing a really hard line between counseling and psychotherapy, or you're not. Like if you become a psychotherapist, you're never able to slap on that.
No, it doesn't matter
ever again. If you are able, hold on, let me finish. Or if you are able to essentially like jump between those two realms, and currently legally in a lot of places you can, then suddenly you have a lot of freedom, and that's where I think as far as like whether or not he's going to be above board on these things.
Is this a legal argument, anybody?
And
I don't care about this fucking. I don't care about that. I don't think anybody should care.
It is.
I don't think anybody should care about this distinction between counselors and psychotherapists. Is he doing something that is like immoral?
It is important, right? It is important because by bringing in the fact that it's legal and has been done for many years, it needs to be said. This is something that has been allowed and has been done for many years. Do you think that created a huge problem as yet? So, and the other reason this is more.
What do you mean it hasn't created a huge problem? It has.
Some people.
You're making so many assertions, though. This is just a gish gallop.
This is not a gish gallop.
You don't want to be interrupted, but you've made like 10 points.
I outlived my utility.
I made one point. Hold on. I made one point. The other important thing that needs to be understood is pretty simple. That not only has this been done for a long time, doesn't seem to have created many problems, and we're not just going after Dr. K with this now. We're going after every single quote unquote counselor.
Okay, sorry. So no, wait. Sorry.
Every single counselor uses pseudoscientific religious horse shit in place of proven fucking treatment.
Okay.
Yes, listen. All of them.
But the thing is, there's a difference as well, though, because these other people, although we can say they're bad and we disagree with them, whatever, they're not monetizing it on Twitch. They're not turning it into an entertainment product.
Okay, can I give a hot take?
Yeah, that's my biggest problem.
Can I give a hot take? I actually don't think that there is any inherent issue with doing like counseling or like life. Let's call it life coaching, right? Life coaching live on stream. I actually don't think it's unethical, and I don't think he's necessarily. I think you can make arguments for like what is a blurred line or whatever, but that's always going to be like a vague argument that's basically not really for you to decide. It's like if you want to report it to an ethic board as Mr. Girl has done, whatever, that's fine. And they can do like look at that, whatever. I think the way better argument is just you don't think it's responsible to peddle like pseudoscientific shit, right? I think that's just a better argument. I don't think like the blurred lines or whatever, because that's always going to be,
yeah. No, I agree. That's my biggest issue. But yeah.
I'm curious about your position on this, Chud. I want to know your position. What is the line that you would draw? At what point is it no longer acceptable for somebody who's like a licensed therapist to talk to somebody in public about their life and like maybe offer some advice?
Well, I think that the problem you've got is the lines are very blurred because, for example, Dr. K says that what he does isn't therapy. Okay. And then he also says things like, we don't help with clinical depression. However, in other information, he will say things like, we have helped this many people who have had moderate to severe depression, right? And then also the people that engage with this service in testimonials will sometimes refer to it as therapy. So even if you're saying it's not therapy, if the people that are engaging with it are therapy, then to me, it would make sense you would have to meet whatever the ethical standards are for that. It doesn't really make sense. You can just be like, oh, well, we say it's not therapy, so that's all kosher then.
I think the issue...
That's really how it seems to work, though.
Well, no. So the issue... The issue
So-
there is that there's a lot of mincing of words, right? So, and I understand, right? Because people trip up on this all the time, and that's why it's fucking stupid that everything is called the same, right? But people in common parlance will refer to like they feel depressive, or they might think they have depression, right? But that's not the same as saying you have clinical depression, right? Like, and
Exactly.
even though,
Yes, and it's
So
confusing
what's
for
Dr. K
people.
saying when he says severe to or moderate to severe depression? I imagine as somebody with is it a psychiatry degree or a psychology degree?
Yeah, he's psychiatrist.
It's psychiatry, right? So I imagine somebody with a psychiatry degree saying it's a success in treating people with moderate to severe depression probably isn't using it in a colloquial, oh, I feel a bit sad today sense, right?
Well, he's trying to present. Well, what he's trying to do, he's trying to have his cake and eat it. He's trying to present it as that, but everyone fucking reading it. Yeah,
so he's doing therapy.
I just want to like. I'm curious if you have any like guidance in terms of lines that you would draw for a licensed therapist, which things he can or can't engage in terms of like a public conversation where he talks to somebody about their life and gives them advice. Do you think that this should just not be okay, or are there some lines that you would draw? Like bringing in medical terminology, making diagnoses.
I don't like the fact that he's dressing himself up in the brand of a doctor. He's got everywhere that he's a psychiatrist, but then he's having these conversations on stream and just presenting them as, oh, it's just a conversation. I think that he's having his cake and eating it. He's taking advantage of his credentials.
I understand. I'm asking you about maybe some qualifying details on what you would consider acceptable or not consider acceptable.
I don't think a doctor of psychiatry should be doing this. No, that's my answer.
Okay, so you think that somebody who is a licensed therapist who advertises that they are a psychiatrist or whatever should ever be having like public conversations with people about their lives?
I think the only time it's acceptable if it was like, I don't know, if it was agreed with by the patient and it was like a static video of just a normal session of therapy or something like that. I don't think turning it into a Twitch stream is appropriate because there are perverse incentives that exist. Like, for example, getting on like big celebrities to grow your brand and stuff like that. You know, I think that it would have to be incidental content creation, not content creation around this thing, right?
So the problem is if you let the person know prior to recording that it's going to be shared with a particularly large audience, it can affect the session, right? The therapy session or whatever. So the only way to really do it would be like, if you have taped interviews or taped therapy sessions that they've obviously consented to having recorded, but don't expect to be played in front of a large audience, and then afterwards, later, you seek their consent to play those videos to a large audience, so that you can't, affect the therapy by them knowing that it's played in front of a large audience.
Therapists shouldn't even be asking that because the dynamic in their relationship is going to be
I want to keep this on Dr.
compromised by them doing
it. Can we keep this on Dr. K, please? I'm begging you, Jesus.
So here's the problem I have. So if you're saying that it's like a person who advertises themselves as a psychiatrist or who is like a licensed therapist shouldn't be having like a Twitch stream where they talk to them about their lives and maybe even provide some advice. Do you have a problem with other people doing this that aren't licensed therapists?
Well, what is it that they're doing? That's the question, I guess.
Maybe the same thing that Dr. K is doing, where they're just listening to people. Hold on, Viv, please. They're listening to people talk about their lives, and they're like talk about their problems, ask about their lives, and offering some like advice or something like that, life advice.
But the problem is there's implicit within that is the idea that that's all Dr. K is doing. I don't think that's all Dr. K is doing.
Well, no, I'm not saying. I'm asking about your position on whether or not, like, to what degree is the fact that he's a licensed therapist and psychiatrist, and the fact that is advertised, preclude him from like engaging in something that we wouldn't preclude another person from doing. Like, what are the lines?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what this is the thing, right? I feel like you're asking me for an exactly precise thing of what I think, right? And I don't necessarily have the knowledge of the ethics of it. Like, I would look to the ethics. This is why I'm perfectly comfortable with this complaint to the ethics board, because if the ethics board looks at this and it's all okay, you know,
but I think
then
they are going to find it okay, which is kind of why I brought up.
Okay, listen, no, shut up, shut the fuck up. Okay, I'm answering a fucking question. Okay, so. My point is, I don't know necessarily what the correct answer to this is. This should be based on a collaborative effort of experts to understand what the correct thing here to do is, okay? So I would say that, you know, the ethics board need to look at this, and if the ethics will look at this and they're okay, that's fine. You know, I don't really have any other issue with it.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I bring this up is because this has all been sort of spurned by Mr. Girl.
I don't give a fuck about Mr. Girl. Look, no, Supreme. No. You're doing it. You're like fucking book smarts. You're bringing Mr. Girl into this because you don't like Mr. Girl. I don't give a shit about Mr. Girl.
Not true.
Okay. Okay, go on.
The point. Listen, I'm comparing two people who have similar content. One person has a stream called Advice and Confessions where they give life advice. They hear people's life stories and they give life advice.
Go and speak to Mr. Girl about that then.
Okay, sure. Listen, I can think of some details. I can think of some things that we would want to restrict Dr. K from doing. If we were to say, fine, maybe it's the case that if you have like you're a licensed therapist and you're a psychiatrist and this is advertised, and you want to talk to people about their lives or whatever, I can think of some hard lines. Bringing in any sort of like medical diagnoses or making that a part of the conversation at all, I think is something that should be restricted. I can think of some details, like bringing up the prospect of medicine or asking a person what medicine they're taking or suggesting like different types of medicine. I think it's fair to say that, yeah, that's like fucked. Nobody on the deference of being a doctor should be like offering this, it should be like diagnosing or prescribing things to people as part of an entertainment spectacle. Sounds pretty agreeable, right?
Yeah, sure. As part of an entertainment spectacle, that's probably wrong.
That's not
sure.
He could easily just give up his license and then keep doing what he's doing exactly how he's doing it now.
So that's the other question is it still unethical if he gives up his license and then continues to do everything that he's doing now?
Yeah, I don't know if he could, because the problem that you have is if you have.
Oh, sorry. Can I just answer that? Right.
Yeah.
I think the problem is I don't think he can do that because he's already draped his brand in his. He's a public figure now. It's too late. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I don't think he can just go, oh yeah, now I'm unaccredited, because there's still going to be, the sort of links to his brand already that exist. So I don't think he can just get rid of that now.
Well, they're just going to see him as somebody with psychiatric training, and therefore he's going to have a lot more authority on like what they should be doing in their eyes than in the eyes than other people would, and that's the problem, like straight up. Because if you just have a random fucking person going, oh, hey, like, I think, like, you should probably do this with your life, there's always the implication that this person's just a fucking rando, and, like, experts and medical professionals will probably know a little bit better, and you could go to them for some, like, proper expert advice. But with Dr. K, you're already getting the highest level of advice. Why would you go to one of these medical professionals? Do you know what I mean? Even if he gives up the license, he's had the training, so therefore he knows.
That is, even if he tells you,
so he shouldn't ever be doing this.
And even if he tells you, well, even if he tells you, sure, even if he tells you that like he is not like because he does do this, right? He says you should seek like a real therapist or whatever, like you should have like an actual relationship. I don't think that many people actually do that, because he gives off an aura of feeling like, well, I'm already getting what I need from a therapist from you, right? So why would I get it from somebody else who doesn't understand me as much, right? I do believe that's how most people would feel watching Dr. K. I don't think most people watching Dr. K would actually go out and get therapy. And I do think that there are ways he can be way more.
I disagree with that.
Well, maybe they weren't going to get it anyway, right? Like this is
sure. Can we just take a step back? Because I just want to talk to Supreme one-on-one for just a sec, okay?
Sure.
Because look, I just want to say, look, first of all, I'm sorry for being so heated with you earlier. I was been saying this whole time, okay?
We should get rid of all these people and just fucking talk. I'm actually like having to compete for airtime is so fucking frustrating.
I know it's annoying.
Oh sure, I'll fuck off if you just want a one-on-one.
Yes, everybody leave.
Okay.
Yeah, I leave.
All right. Thanks, Chud, for having me
everyone.
on. And that.
Okay. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Right, bye.